Pancho Villa. It was a good movie. I saw it years ago, but I never knew I'd have his hat, so I don't have any recollection of him wearing it, but he wore different sombreros in there. This is Tyrone Power's hat from Lloyd's of London.
Oh, what a beautiful picture.
Yeah, it was a nice picture, and that's a gorgeous hat. I just got that, too. I got, actually, these 4. The next one is Leslie Howard from the Scarlet Pimpernel.
That's one of Marion's favorite actors.
That's a really nice hat. And I have some other actors in some scenes here that I found in a movie book with very similar hats, but his name's in it, and I've got to get one of him wearing it. The next one is not movie related. I just changed some of my hats, which I'll show you over here. I tried to get all movie in here, but since Reagan was a movie star, I figured I'd leave it in here. This is his hat, which is signed underneath from from Marine One.
Oh.
And there's a signed picture to me. This is a picture of Marine One, and there's other little artifacts, cigarettes from Marine One, a little dish from Marine One, all from his helicopter. But that is his hat. He might have wore it once on one of the flights or something and gave it to a friend.
Oh.
Down in the 4th row is Barbara Streisand's hat from Hello, Dolly.
Wow.
I have a lot of pictures of her wearing that, and the shoes she also wore. And it's a really nice hat. It's very outrageous if you want me to
Yeah.
take it out. It's kind of hard to see that.
Do you want to look at that, Mayor?
That's pretty.
Yeah,
Flames.
it's a wild hat.
Beautiful.
It shows some of the wear on it. I think probably after the movie, more than during the movie. Some of these things they don't store too well, I hear. This is kind of one of the uglier hats, but it's one of the ones that was probably worn through the whole movie. And it's Burt Lancaster from the Kentuckian.
Oh.
And he wore pictures of him. Every still I ever found, it's the exception to the rule. Every still I ever saw, he was wearing the hat. So it was just a matter of picking out the still that I liked. And this is another hat that I don't have pictures of yet. It's from the house of Rothschild, Boris Karloff.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a beautiful hat. And this is the only scene I could find. There's Karloff, but of course he doesn't have his hat on. I wish I had Arliss's because he's got a great shot of his hat, but that's a really beautiful hat.
That's a nice one.
This is one of my favorites. It's the steel pot that Gary Cooper wore in Sergeant York. And it's one of my favorite movies when I was younger, and I was really happy to secure that one.
Yeah.
There's another scene of him wearing it.
Is Cooper one of your favorite actors?
Yeah, I always liked him. I just think he was really great. This is the part of my collection that people go ooh and ah and yuck and why do you have it? And I mean, I collect famous and infamous hats, and this is a little group on Charles Manson, the mass murderer. This is his hat that he wore in jail. It's signed by him. Back there is a scorpion that he hand makes. He has a lot of time to do those kind of things in jail, and he hand makes those and gives them to friends. And the guy with him in that picture is in jail, and he got out of jail, and I got this stuff from him. And there's a scarf signed by Lynette Fromm, who was Squeaky Fromm.
Oh, yeah.
Who was the one who took a shot at President Ford. And of course, I got a copy of Helter Skelter, his famous book. I mean, Manson is part of society, a bad part, but
yeah.
I mean, I maybe shouldn't have that much stuff on him, but if I had John Wilkes Booth, I'd have that in there. So.
Oh, yeah.
And back here in the corner is Fred McMurray's hat that he wore in a stage production with a signed photo and some other related pictures. But I don't have a picture of him in it because it was a stage production. Probably never will, but it is his hat that he wore. It's kind of a nice hat, but I think he wore it in probably the 60s. It wasn't anything recent or long ago. And then down the bottom is kind of like the quickies. This is a personal hat of Doris Day, typical Doris Day hat. This is George Peppard, a personal hat again. Nothing he wore in a movie. For religious, it's Cardinal Sheehan. He was a Catholic cardinal. He's dead now. This is Melvin Purvis, the famous G-Man. He was the one that killed John Dillinger. This is his military hat that he wore when he served at the Nuremberg trials. And different related items, little G-Man badge and little G-Man gun and things. This is just a top hat, nobody's in particular, that's signed by David Copperfield, the magician. I got pictures of him signing it and all. This is one of the guard hats from The King and I.
Oh.
I just recently got that, and I have to get some frames for the photos. They're a little messed up in the back, crimped. But it's such a weird hat. There they are here. I think there were about 4 or 5 guards, or 6 or 7. I haven't seen the picture, but it's an interesting hat. And this is for the Baltimore people. Since I am in Baltimore, this is 1954 when the Orioles first came to town. It's Jimmy Dykes, the manager of the team. It's his hat.
Oh.
And Jimmy Pearsall, who's another crazy, zany baseball player. Fear Strikes Out with Anthony Perkins and Carl Malden, based on his life. That's his original hat that he wore. And then the other one is a Robert Wagner hat that was just a personal hat that was given to him while he was younger on tour of a ship.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, so that's basically the hats, with the exception of some more historical hats.
Oh, okay, let me just put it on pause. This is pretty weird because you have to close one eye and I keep blinking the wrong eye.
Okay, you want to do these?
This is the maximum light you have down here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's one of the things. These lights were always down here.
Oh.
And I thought it would be enough when I had all this put in. My uncle did all this. It used to be just a basement with baby carriages and old junk and plants.
It's
and,
a beautiful setup.
well,
This gives us a lot of ideas.
It cost me, what you're looking at, just to have it done cost me, what did it cost me? I guess about $3,000 something.
Wow.
My uncle's a cabinet maker, and he really did all the work and really did a lot of, because it was just really just a cement floor type situation.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. This is President McKinley's hat.
Oh.
Now these are much better than movie stars because they hit more historical collectors than there are actually movie star collectors. And museums and things like that would go for these much more. But this is McKinley's hat, and I believe it's the last hat that he had before he was assassinated in 1901. The box has his name stenciled on it. He has written his name on it. Inside are calling cards that were given to the president that he stuck down inside the box. And the hat has his signature on the inside. That's a really beautiful hat. The next is Franklin Pierce. That's an unusual one. It's got a F. Jean maker in Paris. And in 1857, he made a trip to Europe. He was one of the first presidents to travel extensively through Europe after his presidency, and he bought that hat in Europe. And I have an authenticity note from Franklin Pierce, his nephew, who was the executor of his will. And that's a very unusual one. This is another nice one of President Grant. He wore top hats at Mount McGregor. This was given by Julia Grant, his wife, to Dr. Schrady, who there's a picture down here. The doctor was in the war and later on became a prominent physician and helped keep Grant alive because Grant had throat cancer, and he helped him as much as he could. And Mrs. Grant, Julia Grant, kind of got a camaraderie or friendship going with him and gave him that hat. And on the inside is a note from Dr. Schrady giving the hat to his nephew and telling him to keep it always and things like that. It's kind of a really nice item.
Yeah. Are these all from a similar source, or?
No, they're all from different sources.
Oh.
Yeah. And this one I just got about a month ago. It's Pancho Villa's hat.
Wow.
We saw, it's strange because that's how things happen. Wallace Berry's purported character of Villa, and this is actually Pancho Villa's hat.
Wow.
And I got them both within a month. It's really strange.
Pretty coincidental. Separate sources, right?
Yeah, totally separate sources, unbelievably separate. One extreme to the other. And I was kind of pleased to get that. I have to do more research on this. I have a picture of Mrs. Villa and the man who the hat was given to by Mrs. Villa. And he's got one of those unusual French names that I feel sure I checked in the... How I do this is I check in the phone book down in the Houston, Texas area down near the border, and I check in the phone books and get that name. There's only 2 or 3 of those people with those names. I'm going to call them up and figure somehow if they had a man named Leo in their genealogy, and maybe they can supply me some information about the hat or how it got away or whatever.
Yeah.
This is a really historic one. This is the hat that Neil Armstrong wore back from the moon. The first hat he put on after he came back from the moon. If you remember, they sealed them in a trailer inside
Right. Oh, yeah.
because of contamination. they sealed him inside a trailer inside the Hornet.
Because they didn't know what was going to
Right.
transpire.
Yeah,
they were the
didn't know.
first ones back.
Right, and everybody remembers Nixon talking to them through the glass. And that's the hat that Armstrong had in the, he's wearing it right there. And
how'd you wrestle that one away from
that one, quickly, the story, when they put the astronauts in that vehicle, they had two other men in there. There was a physician, and there was John Hirosaki. And John Hirosaki was in charge of the vehicle. If anything went wrong inside the vehicle, he would fix it. And the astronauts had done their job. They were relaxing. You never saw those guys photographed, and people didn't realize they were in there. They may have been write-ups to the effect that they were in there, but there were two other people in there. When they left that, the Hornet, Hirosaki kept that hat, and I got it directly from him.
Wow.
So and I paid a lot for it. He knew what he had.
I can imagine, yeah.
He debated whether to give it to the Air and Space Museum, and it was that type of thing, so I talked him out of it. This is Alvin Barkley, the vice president under Truman. That's one of his hats. He coined the term the Veep, V-E-E-P, and as the vice president. He was a very prominent senator and a very well-liked vice president. And there's pictures of him wearing a hat, but it's one very similar to that, but it's probably not the same one. The chances of it being the same one are nil.
Right.
I mean, they could go crazy trying to pinpoint that hat because it's such a plain-looking hat. But it's got his name on the inside of the band, like all of them. And I have some of these hats. I have the original hat boxes for and things like that. But the McKinley, the only reason I put that out is because he does have his name boldly on it, and he did sign it.
Yeah.
And I just put this display literally 2 days ago, so I might change it around a little bit, but that's that.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Let me just put you on pause if I can. No, I can't. Well, let me just keep rolling.
Keep rolling. The uniform
Oh, God,
is
yeah.
Gary Cooper's from Pride of the Yankees, and of course the Lou Gehrig story. And his name is sewn in. Exactly. These uniform was made, and all the uniforms in the movie were made by the Yankees. They sanctioned the movie very much because of Gehrig's death, and his name were in the pants and the shirt. And I have a lot of pictures of him wearing the uniform. And I don't know if I related the story to you, but he was a right-handed batter and had never played baseball.
Oh, no, I didn't know that one.
When Sam Wood wanted him to do the part, they took him down to spring training, and the other Yankees were there, and he was batting right-handed. And everybody was laughing. And Bill Dickey, who was the Yankee catcher and the roommate of Lou Gehrig, said, "Yeah, he's really a great actor, but Lou was batting left-handed. Everybody will, laugh." So what they had to do is they had to reverse the film. They got a new process where everything that Cooper did in that film is reversed on film. So they had to reverse all the letters on the uniform. So everything, his number and all, was all backwards. And when they filmed the sequences of him batting, he was actually batting right-handed.
Wow.
They made him look left-handed. So the catcher and people in the stands, everybody, if you saw any lettering at all, it had to be reversed. So it was the first time that process was used in a film.
Did he have to run to third base then?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Or
I
they
never really
probably
thought of
stopped
that.
it and then...
They probably
did it
stopped the
right way.
film, yeah. It's kind of weird when you know that and you look at the film. It's kind of campy, it was sort of fun. But they interjected real films of Gehrig running and all that, so it looks kind of neat. This is a original Shirley Temple doll, which is not anything great, but I just put it with here because this is a really neat item. This is a signed photo to Mrs. Roosevelt, love from your friend Shirley Temple as a young girl, and that's a really neat piece signed to Mrs. Roosevelt. And stuff like this, I wonder how it gets out or where it gets out along the line somewhere. But I bought it from a very good source, and it's a good item. This is an interesting group here. This is not Lincoln's hat. I just put it up there. I wish I had Lincoln. One day, maybe. This is...
Are any of those on the market?
Yeah. The problem is, it's like the rope that hung John Brown. If you believe all the pieces, it would stretch from here to California. So when they have... I've seen people say this is Lincoln's top hat, and it's got Springfield, Illinois maker in it. Now, you know there had to be thousands of men in Springfield that wore top hats. So it has to have some really heavy-duty credibility with it. I believe the one in Ford's Theater, and I believe certain other ones that I know of. But if somebody popped up with one, it'd have to have some heavy documentation. And I'm sure, again, Lincoln had probably dozens of them, but where are they all?
Right.
This is a piece it says Lincoln's hair presented by Dr. Leal. Dr. Leal of New York was the man that was the first one after the assassination at Lincoln's side in the box. He's the one that held his head all night long to make Lincoln realize that people were there with him. And this is a lock of hair with a seal with an eagle on it, all done with currency of the day. That's a really beautiful display.
Yeah.
And I'm
Who
sure
did that,
taken,
do you know?
I don't know. I got both of these from the same source. This you might not be able to see on your...
But I mean, the display was probably a Lincoln Civil War display?
Absolutely, yeah. It was done contemporary to the time. I mean, it's never been opened. This is a Lincoln's bloodstained cloth from the night by Dr. Leal, same source. And what this is the bedclothes of the bed in the Peterson house across the street was just covered with blood. Lincoln was bleeding profusely. And that's a section of the bedclothes with Lincoln's blood on it. And surprisingly enough, I mean, I don't know if you know, I consider myself a real relic expert. I've had tons of relics over the years, and this is considered a relic just like it would be if you're Catholic,
yeah, I was
a
gonna
church
say,
relic or
religious,
something like that. Yeah, it's an offshoot of religious stuff. I've had lots of those relics too, which are all sanctioned by the Vatican. But things like this are really hard to find, and I've had sections of the wallpaper from the box. After the assassination, they went up there and ripped the box apart and took anything that wasn't nailed down. I've had a section of the flag, the Treasury flag that Booth, when he jumped off of the booth, when John Wilkes Booth jumped out of the booth, that he caught his spur on and fell and broke his leg.
Yeah, right.
I had a section of that flag which is in the museum. Then there's a hunk of the flag missing, a big, like 11 by 14 section of it, and it has a sign pointing and it said this was taken by Souvenir Hunter. So I had a nice section of that, but it was taken many, many, many years
This was
ago.
taken by Bob White.
Yeah, right. No, it didn't say that. This is a rare signed photograph of Lincoln. It says yours truly, a Lincoln on the bottom. It was in 1860 before he grew his beard, and I have papers on it from the man who got it from Lincoln, who was an elector of Lincoln's, and it's a really rare piece. Unfortunately, over the years, somebody who had it put a cover over the signature and didn't realize that they were deteriorating it instead of helping it. But still, it's nice. This is a 20s wax head of Lincoln. It's true wax. All the wax museums you see today have heads that are made of plastic, and true wax work is a lost art. All these hairs are put in by needles. And this is off a life mask of Lincoln's, and it's an exact likeness of him.
Gee.
Even
I remember that at the show, yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful
Beautiful.
piece. The case is kind of interesting. It's from 1860. It held a religious statue, and I had that at the show too. But it's a little too much for my collection. I may sell it, but right now it houses that stuff, and it kind of makes
Well,
it
I know
interesting.
somebody who would be interested.
This, I don't know if you can see in this case. Let me move it down a little bit. This is President Roosevelt's cane. He liked animals, and there's frogs on there. His initials, FDR, are on there. And he's
I'm
one
not
of
going
the
to try to get that.
He's one of the presidents that really used the cane and needed it because of his polio.
Wow.
And this came from his valet, the man that put him in bed every night, Arthur Prettyman. There's a signed engraving by Roosevelt, and there's a signed picture of Woodrow Wilson as president. And this is an interesting relic piece. If you hold it to the light, you can see the watermark. This is a piece of writing paper taken from Napoleon's coach after the Battle of Waterloo.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this is showing up, too.
Empereur de Francais, Roi d'Italie, King of Italy.
Wow.
And this was a piece of paper that was taken from his coach after the Battle of Waterloo. So that's kind of interesting. Later I'll show there's Napoleon's hair right here. This whole document, again I mentioned the Edwards Pierpont, was the Attorney General under President Grant, and his wife collected hair. And this whole document attests to the fact that this is a hair lock of Napoleon, the emperor. And it's got a certificate accompanying a small lock of hair from the head of Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte. And this is a really rare engraving. It's on very, very, very thin, fine rice paper from 1864. It's got the Napoleonic crest. Yeah, it's a really, the shadowing is from boards where they used to frame, where they frame and put a board behind and the acid comes through. But otherwise it would have been, it's on the finest rice paper I've ever seen.
Great.
It's incredible. This is a section of the upper gutter, the original construction of the White House. From I think it was 1929, they had a big fire there, and that's when this was removed. And it's got the small plaque stating that it's from the White House. But it's a big section of the wood.
Wow.
It's the slats that I think over in here was burned. This picture, this piece was intact then. This was from about 1870, when they had the greenhouses in the back. Looks a
So
lot
you
different.
said that piece dates from about when?
This piece dates from 1800s, when they first built the White House, I think 1809 or 10.
Oh, was that burned in the war too? Or?
Yeah,
Oh, it was.
yeah. That's when they painted it white again,
Oh.
in terms of White House.
Oh, it never was white up to that point?
No.
Oh.
Pieces of it were. It was different colors, but they all painted it white. Well, they called it the Executive Mansion until Theodore Roosevelt, and then he changed the name to the White House. This I haven't done the display yet. It's embarrassing to show this way, but what it will look
The
like.
unexpurgated collection.
Yeah, this is Theodore Roosevelt, and these are two spoons that are his. It's got TR on them, and he used these as vice president, but not as president, and he used them also as governor of New York.
Hmm.
And I will have this display done up like other ones I'll show you. And this is a nice original photo of in a case. This again is the same situation. This is an old humidor box. It says cigars on it. And this is one of the most sought after cigars by collectors of cigars, is Winston Churchill.
Oh, wow.
It's got Churchill's. This was given at the Alta Conference by one of the secretaries to one of the government officials, requested a cigar. When he used to smoke a cigar, he would put it down, just the stogie part, and he would leave the room and people would rush to grab it.
I can imagine.
It's, I don't know if I told you the story, it's the 50s promotional costume. They probably, I can't figure out exactly, they probably made, I'd say 5 or 10. And I have his crate over on the other side of the room. He was put in a shipping crate, and the man who went inside him traveled with him wherever they'd send him. And it's a government-sanctioned thing to promote Smokey the Bear, which originally started in the late 40s when the Forestry Service got a little cub bear out of the woods that survived a forest fire. And then at the same time, this is a story I was given. You hear all them different stories, but the one I was given by the Park Service is that a man named Smokey Joe Martin, a police chief in New York, died about the same time, and they named Smokey in honor of him.
Oh.
And then the little bear too. They put them kind of together. So that was the costume that I remember in the 50s. He was standing out in the woods, only you could prevent forest fire. Yeah. I mean, I'm 37. How are you?
Yeah, 33.
Okay, so you remember it. So, and then behind that is something that's common, but I've kept over the years. It was one of the first ones I got. It's a historical wood relic from Independence Hall. When they were renovating over the years in Independence Hall in Philadelphia, this one dates from 1897, and it's a piece of the original construction, which is right here. And it's just they framed them up, and you donated money, and you got a piece of the original construction. They're kind of prevalent now. They're only worth like $50 or $60, but they're still an interesting relic. This is really a great piece. That's one of the original curls of Mary Pickford. And this is a reenactment of the haircut. This haircut made headline news over everything of the day. And there was big news going back when she was having her haircut, but it said America's Sweetheart in the New York Times. America's Sweetheart cuts curls. And it's a signed photo. And she had 6 curls cut off. And all of them are in museums. This is the only privately owned one. And this survived because a man bought it at a charity auction in 1939, I think. She was there at the auction. She donated it with the ribbon. The ribbon's intact. It was in a... She donated it to the auction, and he bought it right there, and she presented it to the man. It was in a small shadow box that was really deteriorating. The man had it hanging on his wall for years. And I took it out and redid it. It really needed it. But what I do is I take photos of the way it's originally presented to me and then keep that with it and all that. So I have photos on the back of the way it originally looked and all. But that's a really neat piece.
Yeah.
And these are signed photos. They're easy to tell you about. They're just signed Alfalfa, who was murdered. And some people don't know that. And Alfalfa Schweitzer, he's kind of rare. And Spanky signed it at an early age. He wrote Okie Dokie Spanky. It's kind of the two favorites. I grew up watching those.
Yeah.
Nothing else is worth discussing except this. This is the original prototype for the Jukebox Awards, 1980. This was the one that Kenny Rogers and Bette Midler all had. I have a videotape of the show. It's the one that they had in their hands. It's very heavy, and I got it from the original sculptor.
Oh.
And it's based on an old Wurlitzer jukebox. It must weigh 35 pounds.
Wow.
And on the show, even, I have the videotape, and when they hand it to people, they go, my God, they go way down with it, like an Oscar I have over here. You'd be surprised how heavy they are. But I have a whole videotape of that show. It was like for the #1 played record of the year for that year. I think Bette Midler won and Kenny Rogers. Can't remember for what. But that's it on that. And then you want to go up here?
Sure.
This is Jean Harlow. She's very rare. Her mother signed most of her stuff.
That's right,
yeah. An original signed photograph by her. I've had several over the years, and that's one I particularly like, and I keep it. She's like one of my favorite stars. I like blondes, and she's the original first blonde. So.
Oh, is your wife blonde?
No, she's not.
Oh.
No, that tells you something.
So you buy peroxide?
I like the kind you don't bring home to mom. You know, one of those. So my wife is the kind you bring home to mom. And this is a note that she wrote to a friend of hers from a hotel in New York.
Oh.
It's all original pictures. And I love this, that's one of my favorite places is Grauman's Chinese.
Oh, yeah.
Man's Chinese now, but Grauman's where handprints are. And that's an autograph book she's signing for a little boy. It's just a classic shot. I love that photo. And this is a photo, obviously you can see why it was banned back then. And that's an original of that photo. And this is not an original, it's a duplicate off the original negative from MGM. But that's just a super photo.
Yeah.
I think it's done by Hurrell, I think. See, what I have here is a mix. I mean, I had all presidents going down this entire wall, so it is a mix. I jumped from Harlow down to Jerry Ford. And this is a letter to me from President Ford when he was president, which is hard to get an original signature.
Yeah, especially as president.
Yeah, as president. I knew Gail Brumball. She grew up in Catonsville. She married Mike Ford, so I had a little bit of a contact there. And in the paragraph he says, next time I see Mike and Gail, I'll give them your best. So it's a little contact I had there.
Yeah.
Up here is signed pictures of Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. This picture used to hang down in this basement when my father was alive. He used to sell cleaning supplies like I do to Severn School. It's a boys' school. And one of the guys, one of the janitors there, either gave it or sold it to my father. In the early 50s, and I can remember that when I was like 4 years old. And that's really the first autograph I ever owned. My father gave it to me, and that got me collecting autographs, actually. And the Lou Gehrig is a great one in uniform. It's very rare, rarer than the Babe Ruth.
Really?
And it's a nice inscription on there to a man. Joe Cronin and Walter Johnson, two famous Hall of Famers, signed in one photo. Really good item. This is Ben Turpin. I'm sure you're familiar with Silence. It's an original photograph that belonged to Turpin of a theater group that he was involved in. This is a signed photograph to a gentleman. And the two pieces are a scarf and a handkerchief that were owned by Turpin. Came out of his estate. But again, I have papers on all of it, but if I put the papers in there, it would just totally destroy the look of it.
Remember that beautiful poster we saw, 11 Donuts?
Yeah,
we saw
it's tough. I've had a lot, a friend of mine has a lot of material related to Turpin, and I got that from him. And I had contracts and all kinds of things. Down here, if I can step in front of you, is, this is an Andrew Jackson display. Here you have a signed engraving of Jackson, which is extremely scarce. This is an original photograph of Jackson of the period. This is an original Brady of Jackson, Matthew Brady. And two separate sources over the years. I put them all together. This is a hair lock that came out of D.C., and this is a hair lock taken on his deathbed. This scene given to his nephew and passed on right down, and this is Andrew Jackson IV donated this to. The only reason I have it in there like that is because it's attached to the card, and it shows the way these things sometimes are authenticated. That's a real interesting Jackson display.
Yeah, very nice.
Under here, I'll show you this last. This is Paderewski, the famous Polish leader and violinist and conductor. And this is all stuff at the end. This is farewell program. This is a telegram to this man here, Havara Hubbard. He was the music critic for the Chicago Tribune, and this is all stuff that Havara Hubbard, this man, had in his collection. This is a section of his goatee, and this is a section of his hair, and this is handwritten by Paderewski. It was all given to this guy Hubbard. I had all of this man's diaries discussing all his meetings and appointments with Paderewski and virtually every music person in opera from the early 1870s to the 1920s. He wrote an 11-volume work on music history, and I had literally 20 boxes filled with all of his papers and signed things and all. This is a nice signed portrait of Paderewski. And this is a hair lock of the Duke of Wellington with a handwritten thing about Wellington. And this is the
pretty rare too.
Hair lock down there. And these clothes right here are the clothes of John D. Rockefeller. These are the clothes, the last ones that he had on before he died. They came from the hospital. I've never seen a shirt like this. It's short sleeve, made no long sleeve. You can just take it off. And this is like a cashmere sweater, and it's a silk shirt, silk tie, and his hat.
Wow.
And the doctor asked the family if they wanted him back, and they said no, just destroy him, but he didn't. So,
wow.
So I ended up with him. I got him directly from the wife of the doctor. I just got those, and I'm getting more paperwork and related things with it. This is a Thomas Edison check from 1928 on his...
That's about the only thing I can say I have.
You have it, okay. And Edison record. I like Edison. It's just I love this photo, and it's just a nice display.
Yeah.
This is a hair lock from Winfield Scott, the commander of the Army, 1860. And a little poetic dissertation to the person getting the hair lock about hair. And this says with the compliments of Charles Sumner, Senate Chamber, where he attached his hair. Again, for Mrs. Baldwin. Usually the women collected the hair locks. I don't know why, or maybe it just wasn't masculine or something to do it. I don't know. But it's kind of strange. Most of the ones I have are two women.
Well, thank God for the women that they saved that stuff.
This is a Clara Barton signature, founder of the Red Cross. And this right here, it just happened to work in this frame. I put the frame on the picture and the autograph. This is her little badge that she wore at a peace rally. And what I have is, I got into the collection of the family of her aide, who was a man named McDowell, and James McDowell, and he was a Zouave soldier in the war, and he was her aide all through. He met her in the Civil War, befriended her then. She, of course, was a nurse in the Civil War. And in the 1880s, 90s, she was doing a lot with the Red Cross down in Cuba and around in that area, and he was her aide. And in another case over here, I have I have her first aid kit, and her sewing kit, her sewing kit, and a lot of other related papers, plus a hair lock. And I'll tell you the interesting story of how the guy got the hair lock. This is one of my best hair locks. Actually, it's the easiest display down here, but it's one of the most effective looking. It's George and Martha Washington. I have a ton of paperwork with this. It came out of the Lee family, that being Robert E. Lee's family. He was one of the more noted ones. But the Lees intermarried with the Washingtons, and these were kept in these gold lockets by the family. And it's a display that, for display's sake, came together really easily because the outrageous box is so simple to work with.
Yeah.
The back just pops off and
See.
popped on. I guess we might as well just go right down
Okay.
with the hair locks, and we'll come back to this case.
So I'm going to bump in and let me know.
No,
okay.
you're all right.
Okay.
This is Grant. This is one of my favorite displays because it just looks nice. It's an original photograph of President Grant.
Oops. I'm trying to get away from the light glare.
Original photograph of President Grant. Grant's calling card with a hair lock attached. And this belonged to Mrs. Pierpont. That was the wife of the Attorney General.
Oh, yeah,
Grant.
that's right. That was the source of a lot of the stuff, huh?
Yeah. That one, this one, and this one right down here, and some of the other ones. This is James Madison's signature on an old period engraving. This is the last engraving done of him right before his death. And this was a hair lock taken on his deathbed. Now this was given by Dolly Madison to a friend, and it ended up with Mrs. Pierpont, who again knew the Washington Society people. So this hair lock is from Madison. And this is Peabody. George Peabody, the Peabody Conservatory of Music, and he was a big philanthropist. And this says to Mrs. Judge Pierpont from George Peabody, and then note with esteem and all that, and the hair.
Pretty good documentation right there.
Yeah, and then he attached that, and then the signed photograph all belonged to her. So it's a nice little presentation. And these are just odds and ends. A hawk. This is an interesting World War II German helmet that is a legitimate helmet that a guy had on. It was blown up.
Was that at the show? I can't remember.
No.
No, I remember the skeleton though, right?
Yeah, this is a bronze skeleton casting. No particular significance, just a nice bronze.
I remember talking to you about, because it reminded me so much of the Harryhausen skeletons.
Yes, yes, yes. This skeleton is it's one of those things I always wanted, a skeleton of an organ. You can't really do it in shops and things like that because people frown on it. People come down here, neighbors and friends, and they think it's weird, but I don't know, it's kind of cute to me. This is a skull that was used during the Civil War to train doctors.
The skull or the whole skeleton?
The whole skeleton.
Oh.
And it's from about 1858, I think.
Oh.
Nobody of any importance that I know or any significance. Just usually they used to use bums, and same thing they do now, Potterfield types. This is an old bank. There's no significance. This is an original Ku Klux Klan that I got from a friend of mine at the show. I used to have a whole bunch of these, and I sold them, and it just, now that I collect hats and things like that, it seems like it's part of my collection.
Yeah.
This is a photograph that I took at the opening of the Air and Space Museum in Washington, and had all three of the first moon landing crew beside. So I took the photograph and got the autographs and all stuff. It's kind of like, you know, the only one because I did it, so I know I did it. This is an interesting display on the Elephant Man. Are you familiar with?
Oh yeah, John Merrick.
Elephant Man, John Merrick. Okay. A lot of people saw the movie and don't remember it or whatever, but this is a really rare signature of Merrick.
God.
In the, I got that in London. In the show, you see him signing autographs and having some prominence. This is one of those autographs that he signed in the hospital. And this is a letter written by Dr. Frederick Treves, the original for Treves. And this is an original signature of Mrs. Kendall and her husband, who were actors, Mr. and Mrs. Kendall, but she was the one that they portrayed. This is the original photograph of how Treves looked. He was the founder of the Red Cross in Europe and England, and he was the Queen's physician and was a really big physician. I had a harder time getting that autograph than any of the other ones.
John Merrick?
It just, well, I started to put it together because I really loved the movie, and I just loved the whole concept of the film, and then I read about the original Elephant Man, and it intrigued me. And I got Mrs. Kendall first, and then strangely enough, that popped up. And I mean, I wrote to everybody about it, and they had all said, forget it. And I found it in London, and then I couldn't find Treves. And I figured he'd be the easiest. And then all of a sudden, I got a whole bunch of them.
Wow.
So I've got more Treves than I need, actually.
If you ever find another John Merrick, let me know.
Yeah, believe me.
What is that worth, something like that?
I think it's worth about $1,000 or more.
Yeah.
Just the signature. I don't know. It's what anybody will pay for it. It's really kind of an odd collector's item. I don't know of anybody that collects freak signatures other than Tom Thumb, people like that.
Well, even their paper dolls of Tom Thumb and
oh, really?
that McLaughlin published,
All the four of them, Tom Thumb and his wife. And Nut.
Yeah, Commodore Nut. Yeah. This you wouldn't be interested in, but a lot of people around here are. This is the Baltimore fire, which was one of the biggest fires in history. These are original photographs of the fire. And I don't know. I do all the display work, the ideas, and a framer of mine carries them out. This is off an old sheet music. And this, I had it scorched. And what I have that I'm going to do is I have melted like paperweights that people used, like fused together paper clips that was in the fire. So I'm going to mount that on there. And I don't know, I get crazy sometimes with displays, but this friend of mine carries them out. So sometimes they look real good and sometimes they're a little overdone. This is original photographs of a hanging from one of the border insurrections. Again, it's an offshoot of my earlier days when I really collected a lot of macabre stuff.
Yeah.
Same with this. This is one of the graduating classes on a cadaver practicing. It's strange. It's so campy, but see, it's and back here they got the cigarette in the skeleton's mouth. It's done very tongue-in-cheek. It's what they're supposed to do when they graduate. They have to take a picture with the cadaver that they used. Same with this one down here. It's another cadaver.
Oops.
That's all right. This is an interesting
Nothing
item.
too expensive, I hope.
That's an interesting item. This is a piece of the original casket of George Washington.
Oops.
I had the larger section, which I can show you. I took a picture of it. I had a section that was maybe about that big, and it was all framed up with all the documentation. I sold it, and this piece was flaking off, so I took it off and saved it. It's one of those items you can't keep everything. I should have kept the whole thing, but at the time I didn't think of it.
So
it's an interesting story. They dug up Washington because there was some question of him being there. And they moved him also to where he is now at Mount Vernon. They dug him up in the 1830s, and the piece of wood came from the man who was in charge of the dig. And they dug up Washington, and the chestnut casket fell apart, so they had to put him in another casket.
Yeah.
Signed photograph by Thomas Edison in his early days in the 1880s, which is really a beautiful item.
Yeah.
Lock of hair of Alexander Hamilton, Secretary of the Treasury, with nice early engraving.
He's the one that was in the duel, wasn't he?
Yeah, with Aaron Burr. This is a signed photograph by the first shuttle crew, Crippen and Young, to me. I took that picture the same day as I took the other ones over at the opening of the Air and Space Museum. They had not flown the shuttle at that time, but I got them to sign that after.
Oops.
Over here is a check signed by Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh boy, that's pretty
really,
rare too.
Really rare item, yeah.
Yeah.
I have had that for years. This is a check standing at his door in Princeton at 112 Mercer Street, Albert Einstein. It's to the American Friends of the Hebrews, so it was a donation check. And this is an autograph of Sid Grauman, the founder of Grauman's Chinese Theater. And there he is with the Marx Brothers when they were doing
Wait, I don't know. Get focused on that one. Okay, thanks.
This is somebody you probably never heard of. It's Roscoe Turner. He was a real innovator.
Bother him.
He was a real innovator in air. He was a real rogue. He'd been in several movies. He looked like Clark Gable. And this is a box that he carried on a lot of his flights.
Oh.
And down here, it's a lock of hair of General Custer, taken by William Capes of the 7th Cavalry. This guy would have been killed at the Little Bighorn, but he was on detached duty at Fort Rice, and he owned...
That was a lock of hair that was taken with his consent, I assume.
Yes. When you see pictures of, like down here, this is not a true account of how Custer looked. It was 110 in the shade in the Black Hills of Dakota, and he had like, not like a whiffle, but a crew cut.
Oh.
His hair was cut very short. And it wasn't like we know Custer when he was during the Civil War and later.
Yeah, they sort of depicted him like Buffalo Bill.
Yeah, it looked better to have yellow hair, as the Indians called it, with the long flowing hair that they were ready to scalp and all. Just more for the artists to sink their teeth into.
Yeah.
But actually, he had his hair cut right before he left, and that's from his last haircut, actually. And this is Benteen's signature, who's rare, and Reno. That's the two men that tried to come to help Custer, and this is a Custer signature. This is an original photograph of Rain in the Face, the Indian that's purported to have killed Custer. And this is a letter written by Mrs. Custer discussing the death of Custer. A really nice letter.
Wow.
And This is original photographs of the battlefield right after, maybe a year or two after it happened, before they set up the monuments and reburied. Oh, strange, I don't know if you know about the Custer battlefield, they buried the bodies very shallow, and from erosion, a lot of the bones and all came up, and birds and everything were just eating like crazy. It was a horrible mess, and what they did is now they have a big monument there, and as late as I think 1880s, they put up all this new monument and stuff. If you're familiar with the Panama Canal, when it was built, this Dr. Gorgas was called the father of sanitation, and this was his field writing desk. And I have a lot of, again, it's easy to keep the papers in here. I have a lot of documentation on this. All this is documentation. I'm going to get pictures. This came right from his family, and in here are furnaces out of books with his name on it, and one of his calling cards, William Crawford Gorgas. It was Gorgas and Goethals were the two main men of the canal. They couldn't have built the canal without Gorgas because the mosquitoes were so bad that everybody was dying of yellow fever and malaria and all that.
You forget about all that, yeah.
Yeah, so back then he was called the father of sanitation, and he cleaned up the canal so they could build. And somewhere over in D.C., I got to take time and go over there, and there's supposedly pictures. There's a Gorgas Memorial Library at NIH, and the National Institute of Health has the Gorgas Library, and they have a big collection of his memorabilia and things, and they have pictures of him using this desk in Panama. So
great.
It's another thing that takes days and days to do.
When you, well, maybe I should talk to you when the tape isn't running, but when you get your mindset that you want to get something like that, do you totally devote your efforts to just the one thing, or do you have a lot of things on your mind that you're trying to
right now I got maybe like 20 projects to do, including going to New York and getting research on the hats, and then if I can't find it in New York, I got to go to California. And it's not like I just go to California to do that. I mean, I have to like plan a trip or vacation or something like that.
You have a lot of things that you're working on.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on that you can't really appreciate.
No, I can appreciate.
I mean, like, I know this is what it is, and I got a lot of paperwork on and all that, but I would just love to have a picture of him at that desk. But, you know, it takes a lot of time to do it. This is an original Brady photograph of Custer. That's really a good item. Like, for an example, photography people would pay $1,000 for that photograph.
Wow.
It's that good. It's really a good piece. It's a beautiful photograph, signed by her mother, Jean Harlow. This is, again, Baltimore baseball history. It wouldn't mean that much to you, but this was given to the Oriole catcher in 1906 by the team for him and his wife as a wedding gift. It's a beautiful silver piece.
Yeah.
But locally, this is a heavy ticket item for baseball collectors.
You can imagine.
This is an interesting piece. It's a Tibetan skull cup made out of a skull of a monk.
Wow.
When the monks died, strangely enough, they would make these cups, ceremonial cups out of their head in Tibet. It's a weird custom, but it's all hand done.
What would they put inside them?
Pardon?
What would they put inside them?
Just for ritualistic type thing. They wouldn't drink out of it or anything like that. They would just use it for rituals or burn incense in it or something like that. It's a strange custom. This is a flag that was made for Theodore Roosevelt's inaugural. It wasn't anything involved with Roosevelt. It's just a crocheted pretty flag. These are just toys. This is a good piece. This is a signed Yankee ball of the team from the 30s. But Babe Ruth is very poignant, and Lou Gehrig is too. And the rest of the team signed, but oddly enough, those are the two nicest signatures, which that's what everybody wants is Gehrig and Rick.
Yeah.
And again, this is the type of display that I do with the boxes, which I have to do with the spoons and the cigar Churchill. And this is a gorgeous signed photograph of Amelia Earhart in all her flying gear. I got rid of a lot of aviation stuff to move into my house. It's one of the areas where I thought, well, I'll get rid of this stuff because I like it, but I don't have a real thing for it. But that's one of the pieces that I wouldn't sell. I had some beautiful Lindbergh items, and I sold those. This is an interesting piece. That's the original patent model for the braking system.
I'd love to have one of those.
Huh?
I'd love to have a nice patent model, yeah.
Yeah, this is the original patent model for the braking system on a locomotive. This is 1865.
Wow.
They're quite scarce. I got into a guy in D.C.
Isn't it the Cooper Hewitt that has, or there's a Carnegie Museum that has
Yeah, they have a lot of patent models. Well, the patent office sold them years ago, and that's the only one. It's like the MGM auction. I mean,
Yeah.
they sold off a lot of that stuff, and then they're sorry they did years
Yeah.
later. You want to go down this
Sure.
place? This will take me an
Describe
hour.
me,
to
make sure I
describe-
don't.
This will take me an hour to describe this, but
I gotta
this is the most famous autographed hat in the world. It's in Guinness's book. It was in Guinness's Book of World Records. I can take it out. This is the man that originally started that in 1926. He had it at the Dempsey-Tony Prize fight, and he was at ringside. He was a reporter, and somebody signed it, Sesshu Hayakawa, the actor. And then it just sort of was passed around the ring, and at that fight was Tom Mix, who rented a whole rail car and came there with a lot of stars, Douglas Fairbanks, Mary Pickford, and just a lot of fighters and people signed it. And right after the fight, this man who, Sam Smead his name was, he realized what he had, so then he would get to the point where he would have all these famous people sign it. And the last person to sign this hat was Ronald Reagan.
Oh,
He
geez.
saw it as president. And
So that's pretty recent.
yeah, 2 years ago, and he really loved it. There's pictures here, which I really like, is like Errol Flynn. He used to have a display of this thing, and that's why it was cut like this. There's Errol Flynn.
Oh, so you bought the whole display from him?
Yeah, I bought the entire thing. He had it at one of the World's Fairs, and there's a picture of it displayed, and there he is right before he died, a couple years before he died, with the hat.
So you bought it directly from him?
I bought it directly from the family. There's 485 signatures on it.
Wow.
And the list is incredible. It's Will Rogers, Wiley Post, Calvin Coolidge, Henry Ford, General Pershing, William Howard Taft, Newt Rockne, Red Grange, Jack Dempsey, Charlie Chaplin, Jack Benny, Charles Evans Hughes, Rudolph Valentino, W.C. Fields, Lon Chaney, Sr.,
Wow.
Gene Harlow.
Senior.
Yeah, Sr. Here's
He's probably one of the most valuable film autographs.
yeah. Here's his signature right here. Lon Chaney. But you can see, like Pat O'Brien, every time you look at it, you see a different name. Henry Ford, Charlie Chaplin, and plus I have on this hat two huge scrapbooks, which have just tons of pictures, and there's some of the press coverage on it.
Wow.
50 years around the USA and the world, 3 million miles. There's the case that it was carried in. It's been on 59 TV shows. There it is with, remember that show People Are Funny with Art Lincoln?
Oh, yeah.
That was on there, and a lot of other shows. But this shows all the press releases and pictures of it with Jack Benny. And it was billed as the $10,000 hat, and then later on it became the $20,000 hat as it increased with inflation. It was insured by Lloyd's of London, and I think I remember reading it was the first hat insured by Lloyd's, which they didn't insure anything, paid the insurance on it, but I think it was the first hat insured. But it's an interesting item. It's one of my favorites. I like hats and I like autographs, and it kind of like goes hand in hand.
To talk about that prize in front of you?
Yeah, this is the Oscar that was given to Greg Tolan for Wuthering Heights, 1939.
Wow.
And it was the first cinematography award given. It beat out cinematography for Gone with the Wind that year. So if you want to hold that thing, it's nice and heavy.
Wow.
And that's one thing I've wanted for years, and never thought I'd attain one to get one. And
They're not supposed to sell them, right?
no, you know the story on that?
Yeah, I think you told me, and I
Yeah.
relayed it to Mary
Yeah,
Ellen.
when they sign it, I mean when they get it on stage, they go backstage and sign a release that is on loan for life. I mean, when you give somebody something until they die, usually they'll squawk about it. So, and when they die, it goes back to the Academy. So they have all the Oscars back at the Academy, with the exception of the ones they loan out for museums and stuff.
Easier to get one from a cinematographer than a Best Actor.
Yeah, Best Actor. Although I know where one is for Gone with the Wind for lighting or something like that. It's over in Washington. It's used as a doorstop. Somebody has it as a doorstop. A very wealthy family over there. They won't sell it.
Yeah.
But technically, I think somewhere along the line when people die, I think the Academy can't keep track of them all,
Right.
so that's where they get. But I've never ever seen one offered for sale. And this I bought privately.
Wow.
It wasn't stolen or anything like from the family, but the family just didn't give it back.
Yeah.
So technically, I'm not supposed to have it, but I don't really push or like if somebody, I have a lot of articles in magazines and stuff like that, and like Evening Magazine, the television show came here and stuff, and when they do, I just sort of like soft pedal this and don't put it in publicly because somebody's liable to see it and turn me in for it or something.
Right.
It's not illegal, but you're just not supposed to have it.
Right.
It's not like it was stolen. But it's like the Academy loaned it to me or something, you know. I should put in there on loan from the Academy, then nobody would gripe about it.
Right.
This is Spencer Tracy's shirt from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Oh, wow.
You can see, maybe you can't, his initials are in there somewhere. Anyway, his initials ST are in there, but it's just a shirt that he wore in the movie. It's kind of interesting. Then you want to come down here.
Okay.
These are your boys, Laurel and Hardy here, in the Hollywood Wax Museum. The camera is not related. I just put that up there for effect. It just looks kind of good. They look kind of bare standing there. What I want to do is put them in overalls. The clothes are the original ones the museum had on them. They're not their original clothes, and they're not their original hats. But and then they're perfect under there. Everything's there.
This is from the Hollywood Wax Museum?
Yeah, this is from a Hollywood Wax
Oh.
Museum, not the Hollywood Wax Museum. It's a museum that went out of business. But if you've ever seen any of the likenesses, and right now today on Hollywood Boulevard is a Hollywood Wax Museum. Right as you go in the door, they have Laurel and Hardy figures, and they're no more Laurel and Hardy than you or I. I mean, they're horrible looking, and these are good likenesses. I
Yeah,
think.
very good.
I enjoy having them. They're like a centerpiece for my collection. I always love Laurel and Hardy. And I want to put them in overalls, coveralls. I think it just look better. But that's like another project, you know, something else to do.
Right.
People say, oh, it's easy to do, but I don't know.
Now you gotta go to the big and tall man shop for me.
Right, definitely big. You want to look down here?
Sure.
This is really a great piece. It says, "To my dear Ma, with fond love, affectionately Stan X." This is a signed photo to his mother, who lived in England. Jefferson was his name. Do you collect Laurel and Hardy?
Not really, no. But I would like to start.
Okay.
There's a lot of people in competition, I guess.
Yeah, well, all those Sons of the Desert. All
Yeah, we
those
just went to the
crazy-
convention.
Did you?
Yeah, we met all the people there from Babes in Toyland, and my favorite was Mae Questel, because I'm a pleasure collector. You know,
Right.
Betty Boop's voice.
Right.
And we got some pictures taken with her, and also I was standing next to Stan Laurel's daughter. So if you ever want her address, I can get it there
Great,
for you.
great.
Yeah.
I'll show you some stuff related to her,
Oh.
like custody for her when divorce settlements and
Wow.
stuff like that. I got all the legal
She's a real
documents.
nice person.
She
real
is.
accessible kind of person.
What's her name?
Lois
Louise?
Laurel Hawes.
Lois, okay.
Yeah, she was in Tarzana, California.
Right, isn't she married to Rand Brooks?
No, Tony Hawes, his name is. He's a comedy
Who
writer.
was married to Rand Brooks, the guy that was in
I don't know
All
that.
the Wind?
Maybe she was at one time, because she got married to
Okay,
a fan.
Rand Brooks was married to Stan Laurel's daughter, I'm sure.
Oh, but now it's Tony Hawes, and he's, like I said, a BBC comedy writer, and he does. Well, he did the T-shirts that we bought with Laurel and Hardy on them.
And they met through the Sons of the Desert.
the name of their company is Laha Productions from Tarzana, California. If you're
Was that convention in Valley Forge?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I heard about that. I wanted to go for that, but there's something else I wanted to do. Never got the opportunity. This is a 1930 signed picture by both of them. It's signed in white ink. You can't really see it that well, but you know, it's one of those items I bought it because I'd never seen the pose. That's a particularly nice one.
Yeah.
This is one of my prizes when I wrote to Stan Laurel in 1960. And he wrote, "Hello, Bob White, good collecting."
Wow.
I use Robert now. The reason why I don't like Bob White is the bird, you know.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of my earlier stuff says Bob White because I use Bob then. But it's dated from the Oceana. So that's a piece that I like myself.
Yeah.
It's to me.
That's one of my prizes is a personally autographed photo from John Lennon.
To
The
you.
year he died.
The year he died.
Yeah.
Great. This is now see, this is one of my things where I put it together. This is a great shot of Stan, and this is his alimony check. He's crying over the
That's
check.
great.
And this is a very rare check that B.W. Shipman was the man that I got, or the family that I got a lot of the stuff from. Ben Shipman was their attorney and manager. And that's a check for $2,580 to pay to Ben Shipman. And again, this is to Ruth Laurel. This is an alimony check at the height of his career in the 38. This is an early signed picture from 1925, and he signed it with his name that everybody called him, Babe Hardy.
Oh.
And that's before the Laurel and Hardy partnership. This is a card that he filled out coming into the country in, I think, 1932. And he filled it out, Hardy, Oliver Norval, age 40, sex male, occupation actor, American, and traveling first class, and he signed it. Probably did it on the passage on a ship or a plane. And this is a theater program signed by Stan and Ollie right here. That was when they were in Dublin, Ireland.
Hmm.
They were loved over there much more than here in the 50s. This is a great letter to a man who was involved with the fan club by Stan Laurel talking about Ollie's death.
Oh.
It says, I think it was a blessing. He suffered a great deal in pain the last few weeks. I'm happy in the thought that he was taken out of his misery. It's a really good letter involving,
Yeah, that's great content.
Yeah, and these are just little, this is the kind of stuff I don't like to put up, but I put it up because my 8-year-old thinks it's kind of cute. Like he'll find these for me in a shop or a show and say, you gotta have these, Dad.
Yeah, and you hate to turn them down.
Yeah, but again, if you put something down
Actually, that's
like
not
this,
bad. That's not bad, really.
You can't really see it, you know.
That's becoming good stuff.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. And then a friend of mine.
And it's hard to convince you because of the stuff you have. But.
Well, but a friend of mine gave me these, and I kind of like these. And see, this kind of stuff, you know, is in all the stores.
Right.
And all. But people give me these as gifts or think I should have them.
That's
so
like when I first
feel-
started collecting Rockwell with those. Everybody gave me like reproductions for Christmas, and I said, "This is really nice."
Yeah, what are you gonna do? You know, this is the kind of stuff I like. This is one of their hats from the Hal Roach Studios. This is Oliver Hardy's hat. That's a nice one. And the note in here is from the woman I got it from. When they were doing Babes in Toyland, they went to this lady's mother's home. She was a little girl then, and they were getting costumes fittings for the movie. They stayed there 2 days, and they ate dinner with them and all. And the girl was relating to me that Stan would make faces over the table and do his hair up and all that kind of stuff while they were eating. And she was, I think, like about 11 years old then. And when they left the house, Stan took, Oliver Hardy, took the hat off and put it on her head and gave it to her. So it's kind of a neat piece.
Yeah. Sounds as
she
desert would kill for
she
that.
literally gave that to me. I did not have to pay for that, which I couldn't believe.
Do the Sons of the Desert know you have that?
I don't think so.
Good.
I
Keep
tried
it
to join
secret.
it at one time, and then for some reason
Well, you know the way certain collectors are, like they're like Trekkies.
Yeah.
The way they have the
They're crazy,
real
right?
crazy personality.
Yeah.
If they ever found out about that, you'd be hounded.
Yeah.
You'd be like the
I
guest
knew
of
one
honor.
or two of them, and they just acted like, no, you can't have that. You know, one of those.
Right.
This shows you how, when you're living right or something, you luck into this kind of stuff. Stan Laurel letters, I have umpteen of them, but this is an interesting one. But the most interesting thing is down here. I heard about the wax figures of Laurel and Hardy to be placed in the Hollywood Museum a couple of years ago. Some chap in Long Beach had been commissioned to make them. He called me to read the height, the measurements, and I sent him photos of Hardy and I, but never heard from him since. But that's these figures.
That's great.
So I lucked into that.
Yeah.
So I really did. And here's pictures of those figures on display in the museum.
Wow.
This was from a book I had on wax figures. So that's kind of interesting too. These are just little odds and ends around Laurel and Hardy. A book. This is a really rare copy. This is the vault copy from For Me and My Pal. This is the first copy of the script, 1933.
Gee.
And it's exact. I mean, this is the one where they're putting together the puzzle before Ollie's wedding. If you're familiar with it. And it's the whole script exactly. This is the vault copy. I don't know. They must have sold the items because the vault copy usually always stays in the vault.
Right.
And it's in mint condition because it's been in the vault since 1933.
Gee. Which vault was it?
In Culver City. I don't know.
They weren't with MGM yet,
No,
were they?
no. This is a little program at the death of Stan Laurel. the eulogy by Dick Van Dyke.
Wow.
This is what they gave out of the church. This is out of their checkbook, the Forest Lawn, what Stan's funeral cost, $1,017. That's out of the checkbook of Mrs. Hardy. This is divorce proceedings for Oliver Hardy, State of California, versus Myrtle Hardy.
Wow.
And that's his copy. And then throughout here, he's done a little, not throughout, but...
Little note-taking?
Well, maybe it's in, I have another one. It's probably not this one. He pointed out little things to his lawyer, Ben Shipman.
Oh.
I have another one, yes. This is a photograph of Ollie in England, and there's Ben Shipman, the guy. A lot of this is too.
I didn't know you had so much stuff on them.
Yeah, well, I still got more. I can't put everything out. I could fill up another couple walls. This is a signed photograph of him, another signed photograph, signed by Stan and Oliver. She was a scriptwriter, Dorothy. I can't remember her last name, but she did some script writing for them. Kind wishes always, Stan Laurel. This is a handwritten letter by Stan to a friend. Birthday card to a friend. Same guy, another letter by Stan. And the fact that they're handwritten makes it rare. And this is their logo on their productions, which is kind of scarce too. Signed photo by both of them, which is a little bit different. This is a signed album sheet by both of them with an original flyer on their movie and a picture of them. And then my sister gave me this. I don't really like to get into posters because they're so expensive.
Right.
But this is like a remake of it, I guess.
Reissue, yeah.
Yeah, reissue. It's old, but it's not.
Yeah, it's from the middle 40s.
Yeah. I'd like to have their big posters, but if I do have them, what can I do with them?
Yeah. Well, that's the kind of stuff I collect.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean. It takes up so much room.
Yeah.
These are just portraits. Some of them are signed. This one happens to have notes on the back. Shows even Stan with his little sense of humor. The guy botched this up. It's a shame. But he wrote, "Dear George, thanks for your inquiry regarding our age. Please don't tell anyone. We were both born at a very early age." Stan Laurel, 1956. So he even had some crazy humor.
You are going to... Oh, go ahead. I was going to...
These are, I'll go through this quick. This is a lease for property from Stan and Ida that they leased. This is a handwritten letter to Flo and Al talking about doing some movies and talking about Billy Gilbert.
Oh, yeah.
This is the one talking about our first mistake.
Gee.
1931. These are all letters.
Wow, those are wonderful letters.
Yeah, these are great letters. They're nice. They're to this one man, George Draper, who was in charge of their fan clubs.
So that was bought together as a collection, or?
Yeah, over a period of time.
Oh.
Then some of this is to Ben Shipman. So some of the letters are to the same guy. Talking about, Stan was very protective and very business-oriented with Laurel and Hardy. He to the day he died, wanted nothing bad to happen to the name of Laurel and Hardy, and wouldn't sanction a lot of the stuff that they wanted to do. There's things in here where they wanted to do a billboard depicting Stan and Ollie, and he wanted to know everything about that billboard. And there was something about the billboard he didn't like, and he said, "I won't do it." So these are contracts, Stan Laurel. This is Larry Harmon Picture Corporation when they did the cartoon, the Laurel and Hardy cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
These are more Stan Laurel and Ida deeds to property. This is his Stan and Ida's 1958 income tax report. Work that he had done in his house where he initialed it OKSL. This is a really interesting letter to Ruth Laurel, his wife. This is published in a biography about Stan Laurel. He was going through a divorce. He talks about, "I have to stay in this lousy town." He was kind of vicious in his letter. It says down the bottom here, "If you would try to write me instead of fight me." He was going through a real bad problem with his wife at that time. These are more letters checks to Virginia, alimony checks. And then at one point, Ben Shipman started to sign the alimony checks, and at another point, I'll show you. These are Ida Laurel checks. These are alimony checks signed by Ernest Murphy, a representative for like power of attorney.
Oh.
And these are at the height of their career from Hal Roach Studios in '37. And there's $375. There's $475. Again, they're all alimony checks. I have a number of those. And these are, again, deeds and property deeds signed by Stan. I have their checkbook from the estate of Stan Laurel. That is death certificate. This is the Oliver and Hardy Trust Fund. I have that checkbook with all the checks blank. Different other, David Wolper did productions on Stan. This is a check from Oliver Hardy, and that's his writing. But he had signed the check, but not his name. Again, these are all, there's a notice about a probate hearing for Oliver Hardy's death. This is more death-related courts. Signed portrait again. I visited the steps, I think I told you, where they did this.
Oh, yeah. That's the music box?
Yeah, the music box, right. And there's my son walking up the steps, and there's me standing on the steps. And here's the steps they used in a couple movies. This is a music box, but they used this in another short that was never done. These are all, you know what these are.
Yeah.
Yeah, those things. These are some original stills, large ones. They're later. And then I just had a lot of portraits and pictures, different ones. Mae Bush, who was classic. And there's Hal Roach, signed picture. Edgar Kennedy, who was in some of their...
Oh, yeah.
The way he signed that. Billy Gilbert, who was, you know, a good friend of theirs and a good actor.
Great Gildersleeve. Wasn't he Gildersleeve?
No.
Oh.
Gildersleeve was Gildersleeve. That was his name. Billy Gilbert looks like him.
Oh, he looks like him.
Yeah.
Who played the TV Gildersleeve?
Get a guy named Gildersleeve. That was his name.
Really?
Yep.
Wow, he looks just like him.
Yep. And these are just some more portraits of him. Now, there is the ones I was telling you about. Just to show you how horrible they are. I mean, it looks like Stan. It doesn't even look like Stan.
Yeah.
I mean, it's his pose, but the face is horrible.
You look good if you're blind.
Yeah, these are pretty bad.
You're going to tell us about that Seltzer medal. That's what I was trying to ask you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the one that I had Mo, Larry, and, well, Curly Joe, the other stooge, sign when I met them in 1962, I think it was. It just started to really come back. I was a sophomore in high school, and I took their picture at an amusement park.
Oh.
And I met him afterwards and got him to sign it. And the big thrill was Mo took it when he signed it. He took it like this and pointed it at me and did that. And I said to him, I wish it was full. And he just laughed. He thought it was funny. I thought it was funny to make him laugh because I meant it. I was like, oh, I wish it was full, and I said it. So, just for him to shoot me in the face.
Yeah.
But that was a neat piece. I like that. It's not one they used. It's just one that
Who
I
cares?
had.
It's still great.
Yeah, and they thought it was really neat for somebody to go, you want me to sign this? Like, they just thought I was out of my mind.
What did they sign it with?
I had a magic marker. Like, when it was magic markers, I think came in hopefully in the late 50s, and I think I got it signed. And I think it was 62 or 63. I can't remember. This is I collect Stooges stuff too. This is Stooges stuff. There's an original contract for Three Stooges to appear in Baltimore, and Mo acted as their manager. He signed for them. It shows their salary, the gross salary, $2,300 for 7 days' work.
Gee. What year was that?
That was 1942.
Oh.
There's a check by Mo Howard. This is little notes that Mo wrote, a little signed item. These are autographs I got at the same time by them. These are more pictures I took of that day. Larry Klein. Curly, the original Curly. He's hard to get.
Yeah.
Shemp. Mo. More signatures. More signatures. Curly. Joe Besser, who was, after the other ones. Jules White, who was the producer. Ted Healy, who founded them. Monty Collins, who was in some of the movies. These are original stills of the Stooges, which are pretty good.
I would say so.
Yeah, these. And then these are little later dupes. These are original from those horrible movies, Hercules.
Right.
And those terrible movies. These are promotional things that the fan club sent out. This is the finger puppets that are here, signed by Curly Joe and Larry Moe didn't sign them. This is little things, stencil thing they had, record, you know, books, another record. That's about it on that. I've given up a little bit on the Stooges. They've gotten so outrageous. I mean, a signed picture's $300 or $400.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's a bad investment. I don't think it's worth it. And underneath here is the crew of the Challenger, which caught people's imagination, the whole world for a while. Scooby in here, all of them.
Excuse me.
And of course, Christy McAuliffe. And Jarvis was hard to get because he wasn't really an astronaut, he was just a civilian. And Judy Resnick. And then these some, I used to collect heavily astronaut stuff. I took this photo at Grissom and White's grave when they first died in the Apollo fire. Grissom, White, and Chaffee.
Yeah.
These are signatures of Grissom and White. And this is another piece that I got on the 5th anniversary of the flight, signed by all three. I had Neil Armstrong sign that. He thought it was neat. It was an old stereopticon card.
Oh, that is pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah, something different. And then the original 7 astronauts, Glenn, Carpenter, Shepard, and so on. I'll probably eventually change this display. I used to collect a lot of astronaut stuff, but I don't know, I slowed up on it.
Yeah,
when everybody got complacent about it, I guess I did. This is a lot of stuff in here. It's kind of just a hodgepodge. Original hat from the Maine, one of the sailors on the battleship Maine. And original candy jar from the period. They made so many souvenirs of the Maine. This original plate. There's a report on the wreck of the Maine from the government. A little sterling, not sterling, but a metal spoon made from metal from the Maine. A piece of the Maine as it looked before they made things like this out of it. Another piece of the Maine. They made so many different things out of the wreck that was actually, here it is. I mean, there's so much metal that could have been used. I think it was like a rallying type thing around the, remember the Maine type thing. This is the gloves of Tom Thumb.
Okay.
And this is a signature of Tom Thumb. He was Charles Stratton. There's a visiting card that he gave. That they gave those out as a little visiting card. It was a miniature card because they were miniature.
I should put that glove in my hand. I was going to see the size of it.
You can fit one glove on your thing.
Yeah.
They're kind of cute. I like it. And this is one of my displays that I do. I take those boxes and redo them. And that's a locker here given by Mrs. Stanton of Edwin Stanton, the Secretary of War, given to Mrs. Pierpont. He died in the late 1860s, and this was given after his death in 71. Here's one of the largest hairlocks I have. That's Clara Barton. Susan B. Anthony.
Oh.
That was taken on her deathbed, like half the side of one of her.
I don't want to block your view, Mayor, if you want to look at that.
This is a calling card. I showed you earlier another hairlock of the Duke of Wellington. This is his calling card with another hairlock, where he sent it to someone personally. This other one was by Colonel Gurwood, his aide. Down here is a piece of the bathrobe, which is strange, but the family sent it out, a piece of his bathrobe, Babe Ruth. And these are signed baseballs by Ruth and Gehrig. And this one is 1948. He was in the Wolmer Eye Clinic here in Baltimore receiving treatment for his cancer. And that was signed to one of the nurses. This is a rare, it's 1948, the year he died. They published his Babe Ruth story, his autobiography. And he didn't sign many copies because he died. And this was signed by Bob Considine, and Considine was the writer of the biography. This is an interesting piece. This is Grant's cigar holder. They used it at Mount McGregor. They thought he smoked to the day he died, and they thought that this would help alleviate his throat cancer, which I don't know how much it did, but original engraving. This is another hairlock of Grant in a little case. And the hair's in the back. This is Jean Harlow's pocketbook from the MGM.
Any money in it?
No. Jean Harlow MGM. And it's got a little makeup on it, which is from her makeup case right there. Came with it. I got it narrowed down to where she either used this in Bombshell or another movie, I can't remember what it was. Anyway, it's one of those ones it just takes more research and more looking at the film, and it's hard to find some of those films if they're not on videotape. You got to go to these classic film societies show the film or something.
Right.
And I'm not into all the projectors and films and all that. It really gets involved. I mean, I know that's straight and true, but I don't know exactly from what movie it is.
Yeah.
Mary Pickford's glasses that she used later in her life.
Wow.
This is Jefferson Davis, the President of the Confederacy, one of his hankies signed, with a very, very small hairlock of Jefferson Davis is engraved on the back.
Sorry.
This is Jimmy Stewart's address book, signed by him, and some of them are filled in his hand. There's an interesting one. Are you familiar with his movie?
Which one?
That he did with, when he played Spirit of St. Louis.
Oh, yeah.
Charles Lindbergh. There's Lindbergh's name and phone number where he was checking with him about the film. His dentist, and there's even, under the R's, Ron and Nancy Reagan.
It's pretty
An
neat.
interesting book. There's numbers in there. There's about 8 numbers for Frank Sinatra, all kinds. Private numbers, office numbers.
Did you ever try any of them?
No. This is a brick from the original construction of the White House. This is a piece of the flooring from the White House. They did these various times when they renovated the White House to sell to the public or to give to dignitaries. This is a nice hairlock of the Empress Eugenia. There she is here. Again, I put it in this case, but the hair is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And there's books written on her, and they talk about her flaming red hair. This is the piece that I told you. Clara Barton was not the kind of woman. She wanted to be real obscure type of a person. She didn't like the limelight. There she is here on her porch, and right here is McDowell, the man who was her aide. And he snuck into her tent when she was out and took this out of her hairbrush. That's how it came about. She wouldn't even be the type of person, he wouldn't ask her for one. And I have like Christmas greetings from her, and this is her sewing kit. And it's just got the little implements in it. It's not complete, it's got some things missing. Book on her from the Red Cross with that she gave to this guy McDowell. Piece of the crater of the atomic bomb blast in Nagasaki. You can see where it's melted, the rock.
Wow.
And strangely enough, even back then, the Japanese were enterprising. They packaged these things up, and it was radioactive. That's why they put it in cellophane.
Gosh.
And they sold them as a piece from Nagasaki.
Wow. Did you ever put a Geiger counter on that one?
No, but a friend of mine told me that it probably would still have a mining radiation. I don't know. It's strange. This is kind of an interesting piece. This elephant, I don't know if you can see a picture of it. Tusco was the largest elephant in the world. He went on a rampage and killed a bunch of people and broke off one of his tusks. And this is made from a piece of the tusk of Tusco. And it's a bronze elephant.
Gee.
Strange.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just one of
Was
those
he in
relics.
like a P.T. Barnum exhibit, or?
Yeah, he was the first elephant that was electrocuted. Actually killed for
Wow.
killing.
The only one I've ever heard of being electrocuted.
Yeah, well, they electrocuted a couple of elephants. But
Oh, you mean intentionally?
Yeah.
Oh, because of his
for
demeanor.
Murder, like, it's strange.
Wow.
This up here is a prop from the reason why I know it's a World War I plane is this is a government proof mark. You pick up little things like that after years of, either research or collecting this stuff. This prop was used by a flying club, and 1927, and it was off a World War I fighter plane. It's kind of an interesting picture.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Down here, I have a lot of different items. There's one of Groucho's cigars, signed.
Let me get a close-up of that one.
Tim Groucho Marx. The signature's deteriorating because of the flaking of the cigar. Got it?
Yeah, thanks.
A lot of these are hair locks. There's Larry Fine's hair, and Boris Bela Lugosi's hair.
See.
That was taken by his hairdresser.
Wow.
I have a great letter with that. Disgusting. Norman Rockwell, hair.
Gee.
Mountbatten. And different movie stars: Sophia Loren, Stella Stevens, Pamela Sue Martin, Anne Margaret. Goes on and on. There's whole bunches of them. There's a Milton Berle cigar. With different other little things. His Federation card for television artists. Different pictures of them. These all came out of his family. Don Larson. It's a ticket for his famous no-hitter game signed by him.
Wow.
Any pitcher, World Series pitching no-hitter. Another one's Cheryl Ladd. This is an interesting one. This is Jane Mansfield, lip print, hair lock, and Marilyn Monroe. Two of the classic.
Wow. Thanks.
This is Smokey's container down here. He was shipped around in. And we get to last but not least are the shrunken heads.
Sorry.
Do you know anything about shrunken heads?
No, not at all.
Okay. They're in museums. They're really rare. They make fake ones. I'll show you a fake one. None of these are fake. They used Robert Ripley, and Ripley's Believe It or Not, was the man that brought them into the public eye. I mean, they were done for years in the islands down South America and all. And they did it for a religious or ritualistic type thing. They would cut the head off the body. This is a body tied on the stake by the Indians. Headhunters, victim of a headhunter. That's what they terminalized them. And they believe that the head lives on after death. And they take the person's head, cut the head off, and peel the skin from the base of the neck up over and take the skin off of the skull, so the skull is out. But they're really works of art in that they shape them back, much like leatherworking, the way the person looked. And when you shrink the heads, a lot of times the hair falls out. But if they're really good at it, they can keep the hair in. And then the hair is cut short because a lot of times they develop lice and bugs and stuff like that over the years if they're not kept right. That's why a lot of them are short. But the way you tell an original shrunken head are the ears. I mean, that's an ear. It's a miniature ear. And I'll show you, if you hold on a minute.
Sure.
I'll show you a fake one. Now the fake ones, they would dupe people with going through the Panama Canal. A native, all dressed up like a native should be, pulls one of these out. People would think it's real. But you can see it's an ear fashioned like an ear. And this is probably made out of goat skin. And then they just add the hair and, mold it. And they're good at it. Some of them are good. This one, these back here are from the Philippines and Formosa. And you can see they're not good at it. They lost all the hair, the ear deteriorated, the face deteriorated. It's just in horrible condition. I mean, it is an art form that is very hard to do.
So the reason that they do that is?
It's religious, cannibalistic, ritualistic. They wear them around their neck, as you can see that one native did. That's their thing. When they have a war with, there's only the Javaros are the main headhunters. They're the ones that started. There's only 200 of them left, and they don't do it anymore. I mean, they're natives down in Ecuador. This one is a white man, right here. And he's the last one I got, and he's really rare. He's got a big handlebar mustache.
Which he probably had, or? That's something which he probably had, a mustache?
Yeah, yeah. And this one is done the way they're nicely done, like with the ribbon. And it's just like working with leather, the way they shrunk the head back and make it look exactly the way it looked. Now this is an Inca.
I was going to ask you, what did they use for the support of the flesh? Because the skull is not there anymore, right?
Well, it's like working with leather. It's just a head. This is my wife.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Mark and your name?
Mary Ellen.
Mary Ellen.
Hi, how you doing?
And that's Zachary.
Hi, Zach. Are you the Batman collector?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's Mr. Mark and Miss Mary Ellen.
Hi.
The head is there's no more support needed. They sew it up and shrink it down, and the skin becomes kind of thick. See how thick it is?
Oh, yeah.
Now see, this is the
like
incision. Now this is one that was stored improperly and squashed.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and eventually get that unsquashed.
When do these date from?
Anywhere from 1880 to 1930.
Oh.
This one, and this one, and this one, all belong to P.T. Barnum.
Wow.
Barnum's Museum. Those three. I got those from one source. This is an Inca Indian woman from about 1200 A.D.
Gee.
You can see where it deteriorated down there, but that's all skin, and her eyes and everything remained intact. That's, petrified more or less.
Yeah.
And this is an Egyptian mummy, head of a nobleman, 3000 B.C.
Gee.
I traded the Cairo Museum. I used to collect Egyptian artifacts. I traded the Cairo Museum this. This is part of the wrapping, and this is skin, his teeth. The nose break is there. They pull the brains through the nose with tongs as part of the ritual. They're fixed for life after death. All the hair is done, fixed. And this is where the skin deteriorated and part of the skull came through. But it's a while.
So was that head separated from the body?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, when I got it. Yeah.
Do you think it was buried that way or not?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think somewhere along the line it got separated. These are all, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one are all American Indians from different parts of the country, and this is the Confederate Civil War soldier.
Oh.
But all the other ones are American Indians. Here's an old headhunter. I just did this case, so I have to put some of these up. But that's an old headhunter with 4 of his trophies. But see, he wouldn't even show his shrunken heads. They mean too much to him. But the skulls, they use the skulls for various other reasons. But that's kind of a classic shot.
Yeah, I looked at that wood sculpture you have on the side there, or is that bronze?
No, it's a wood sculpture. Yeah, somebody gave me that as one of those things that's kind of tacky,
Yeah.
but it shows, I don't really like it. But
Well, I think it's pretty neat.
yeah, it's kind of okay. Yeah, my wife hadn't seen this case yet. You like this case?
It's really nice.
It shows the heads well,
It's perfect. You can look at it from...
Yeah, from all sides. My other one, I had to take it out and show people and all that. If you want to do anything with any of this stuff, you might as well stop the tape and you can...
Oh.
That's about it. Over here, if you want to...
Is your JFK stuff at your house?
Oh, I'll show you. No, I'll show you the JFK.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
even show you that. This is Abbott and Costello from Lost in the Harem. And there he is, here in the coat, and there he is, a better shot of him in the coat. He's behind him, Abbott, but they're wearing it there. Strangely enough, these are left over, they're the MGM labels, these are left over from the old filming of Kismet.
Really?
Yeah. And this is Barrymore's from Marie Antoinette.
Oh.
He played Louis, King Louis. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful costume.